Hi everyone, welcome back to Collecting Nolan. This is Russ, and it's that time of the week where we look at the highest selling Nolan Ryan cards on eBay. So let's go ahead and get started.
Number 10
is the 1971 O-Pee-Chee number 513 ungraded that sold for $946.64. Look at the colors on this card. If you compare this card to the tops, the colors are more vibrant and warm. I absolutely love the O-Pee-Chee version of this card. If you recall, this is the first year that the O-Pee-Chee cards ran parallel with the tops cards. In years prior, there are less O-Pee-Chee cards in comparison to the tops cards. This card is particularly sharp. It looks well centered in every direction. There is no chipping or edge problems that I can discern. What a great card.
Number 9
is the 1969 tops number 533 and a PSA 7 that sold for $999.99. The 1969 is almost always on this list, and rightfully so, since it's Nolan's first solo card. There are 1,596 PSA 7 cards out there, with 1,266 cards rated higher. Recent PSA 7s have sold in a range between $920 to $1,350.
Number 8
is the 1982 tops number 90 and a PSA 10 that sold for $1,100. There are 223 PSA 10 copies of this card out there, and this is not the first time this card has appeared on this list. In fact, it is becoming commonplace for this card to be on here. Recent PSA 10s of this card have sold recently for between $999.99 and $1,225. Of note, a PSA 9 copy of this card sold for only $62.
Number 7
is the 2024 Topps Transcendent 1960 Topps Superfractor Auto 1 of 1 that sold for $1,358.33. This is not the first time that this card has appeared on the show. It appeared 2 weeks ago when it sold for $1,276, so it is slowly going up. I love this card. It's got a photo of Nolan from near the end of his career with a nice prominent auto in blue ink to match the Rangers blue.
Number 6
is the 1999 Fleer Ultra Fresh Ink Wade Boggs, Nolan Ryan, and Tony Gwynn Triple Auto number 69 out of 100 that sold for $1,400. This is not the first time this card appeared on the list. A copy of this card sold for $1,200 back in February when it appeared on this show.
Number 5
it is back with a vengeance. After a brief hiatus, number 5 comes in with the 2024 Topps Triple Threads Deca Pitcher Auto Relic Combo Book out of 10 that sold for $1,499.71. This is the highest this book has sold for in quite a while. The last time a copy of this card sold for was in February of this year for $1,025. The pinnacle of this card was in January of this year, where a copy sold for $6,100.
Number 4
is the 1978 Topps number 400 and a PSA 9 that sold for $1,799.99. Well, this is a beautiful example of one of my favorite cards from the 70s. It does appear to be a little off center from left to right. There are 141 PSA 9 copies of this card out there with only 3 PSA 10s. Another PSA 9 copy of this card sold on eBay for $1,742.17. Another PSA 9 version of this card sold for $1,583 earlier this month. Of note, a PSA 9 O-Pee-Chee version of this card sold for only $433 earlier this month. What a steal.
Number 3
is the 1974 Topps number 20 and a PSA 9 that sold for $1,900. There are 234 PSA 9 copies of this card out there and only 7 rated higher. This is one of my favorite 70s cards because of the action pose. It's almost as if you were in the batter's box getting ready to face a heater. It's an awesome card. The last sale of a PSA 9 of this card sold in January of 2025 for $1,837.25.
Number 2
is the 1974 Topps Deco Edge and a PSA 7 that sold for $2,397. As a Nolan Ryan collector, I can tell you this is one on the short list for anybody serious in collecting Nolan Ryan. There are only 55 graded copies of this card in the PSA database. There are only 7 PSA 7s with only 38 higher. There are 15 PSA 9s and no PSA 10s exist. A PSA 9 version of this card sold for $3,600 back in March of 2024, and a PSA 8 sold for $2,196 back in June of 2022. I would love to have this card in my collection someday.
And finally, number 1
is the 1968 Topps number 177 Jerry Koosman and Nolan Ryan rookie card, a PSA 5 dual auto PSA DNA 10 that sold for $2,494. There are 72 similar cards in the PSA database and only 60 higher. I imagine that this population describes dual autograph cards rated as a 10 with an overall PSA 5 for the card. And that does it for this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, hit the like button, comment on all the cards if you want, and I'll see you at the next one. Thanks for watching.